you so much.
Thank you. And our next round of questions goes to MP Jessic. You have 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to all our witnesses. I think we can certainly agree that the urgency in terms of ensuring connectivity across Canada has been heightened through the pandemic situation, as so many of you have pointed out. My riding of Markham-Stouffville does include a very rural area, and some of the comments made by Mr. Gay and Mayor Arnold really resonated with me, because through the years, there has been a concerted effort by municipalities, by the region of York, to try and improve connectivity through the rural areas. And of course, there have been the situation, Mayor Arnold, you particularly referenced that people come in, they do an assessment, and somehow it's just not worth their while. There's no business case to, in fact, improve the connectivity in particular areas. And in particular, it seems, and I've heard this from rural colleagues, rural MP colleagues, that in fact, some of the incumbents, the Bells, the Rogers, TELUS, have made it quite clear that they don't see a business case for them to connect rural Canada. So, Mayor Arnold, could you just talk to that experience a little bit?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And for some of the larger corporations, they just don't want to bother. And I know we've dealt with Tech Savvy, and even they struggle at times being able to provide service for some of the smaller communities that we have, and just being able to provide services for folks. And, you know, we've allowed all kinds of communication devices put on water towers wherever we can. We actually went through an exercise where we were volunteering to pay money towards having it put in. And even at $8,500 per residence, it still wasn't enough to cover the cost. So it's the model, exactly as you said, that you have to have a profit model there somewhere. And for these large corporations, they don't want to be bothered with small places that they're not going to be able to turn any type of profit for a number of years.
Thank you. And so, Ms. Tribe, perhaps I could ask you then, in terms, you've talked about your 3 priorities for action, mandating a basic internet package and so on. How do you deal with the reality that Mayor Arnold has just described in terms of how do we make the connectivity actually happen?
Thanks for your question. I think that's really the point I was getting at around the money. And that sounds so silly to keep coming back to, but that's why the current approach hasn't worked, because it has been waiting for companies to come in and do it themselves. And they have been so reliant on what will be profitable. And I think the internet, as we've all agreed on this call, is essential. Everyone needs it. And if it's something that is essential to citizens, that's where the government needs to step in. And I think it sounds so easy when I say it that way, but it's hard because it's a lot of money. And, you know, hearing Mayor Arnold talk about what that costs for each home, that's a really big difference in the lives of the people that live in that house. And I think the larger companies in particular have really put a dollar on what they can get back, or put an amount on the dollars they can get back. And that's why this does require the government to step in, because if we don't actually put forward a plan that will subsidize that to make sure that those families know that they matter, then to those companies, they don't, because it's not profitable.
But when government procures a service from a provider, they obviously ask for a proposal and from as many people as are interested, and then they analyze those particular proposals and, of course, look to price. Are you suggesting that that in fact, to ensure this connectivity in rural Canada, that the government go through a normal procurement process? How exactly would it work?
I think there are a number of models the government has already used for applications for funding, and they have frequently led to the same providers receiving the money. And they've actually, I think in some cases for the incumbents, learned to not invest until the government is willing to subsidize them. And I think when we're looking at these rural areas in particular, the number one place that the government should look is who's already there. and who's already serving those communities, because they're the ones that are invested in those areas and the ones that are going to be around long after the government funding is gone.
And my time is up. Thank you.